So let's just start from the model. Okay. Actually, just see the packages first. So we have exceptions package, we have model package, we have policy package, we have provider package, we have service and storage packages. Exception package, as the name suggests, it just stores all the exceptions. Model, it stores the model classes. Policy, so we have some policies like, each cache that you have, there can be different types of caches. So caches have eviction policies. We'll come to it like where it is used, but something called policies we have as in package. Then there are some providers. We have like, cache provider, multi-level cache provider. So there are multiple things in the provider. So there's one package for that. Service is having service classes, and then storage is having the actual storage thing. We'll come into it. We'll actually see the detail of each one of it. So let's just start on it. So first of all, let's see what the model classes we have. So model classes we have, like, these are level cache data. So what is the data, or what is the model for each level? So you have read time at each level, and you have write time of each level. As the problem statement, if you remember, there we are given the, the read time of each layer and the write time of each layer, right? So that's what we have at each layer. So that's why we have put that in the model. You can say we have the capacity of each layer also, but I'll just show you why I did not put it in the level cache data, and it is put something else, because it is actually not the property of the layer. It is actually the property of the cache in a particular layer, right? So we'll see how I incorporated it. Read response, I have the second model. It's just like, whatever the response is given by the read operation. Similarly, write operation, we have the response, and we have the one response for the stats operation. So read operation will give value and the total time. Write operation will give only the time, and the stat operation will give the average read time, average write time, and the usages, right? So these are the basic models we created. Then let's see, the service. Let's start from the very outside, and then we will go inside, like how this is implemented. So let's see the first layer, which is directly client facing, or which directly our users will call. So this layer is called cache service, and in the cache service, we have a default multi-level cache. I mean, this is actually the level cache, which service will be using. Then we have the last read times, like, we have as the stat operation. Actually, I actually implemented that bonus operation, so I am keeping a track of what were the times taken by the last reads, what were the time taken for the last writes, and how many last we have to, keep track of. That's what I have taken in the constructor, because in the problem statement it was given that we only need to return the average times for the last 10 and last 10 read and last 10 write operations. But if I just put 10 over here instead of just taking it in the constructor, then it becomes very, very coupled system. Like, it will actually be very rigid, not a very flexible class. If you tomorrow you want the average time of 15 operations, like past 15 operations, then you will have to change the class implementation, and this is not a good idea. So to prevent such things, we always try to make our classes flexible, so that if tomorrow some use cases changes, and these small things will not take too much effort in the coding also. So it should not be like you change your whole design, whole thing, just because to incorporate something. But if it's a very small thing, then you should keep doing those things, so that you make your classes flexible. And this actually really helps in your interviews, because this shows that interviewee, or the person who is coding, is actually thoughtful of these things, like how can he make the existing code more extensible, how can he think of future use cases. So these kinds of things are actually helpful in your interviews also. And in the actual implementation, if you do in your company and your job, or in the system that you are building, this will be really helpful, right? Because over there actually there will be more future use cases, so you will definitely have different counts at different times. So you should not just hard code them, and you should make them flexible by passing them from the constructor. So initially, all the read times and write times are empty, because we do not have them. So in the beginning they are empty, and we take the default cache as a dependency in the constructor. Now again, as you can assume, like, there are three operations. One is get, which is for the read, one for set, which is for the write, and one for stats, which is to give the stats for the bonus operation, right? So we have three methods for one for each operation, and then there are some private methods, but the API has these three operations. First of all, get, as you can assume, like, again, it will just ask the multi-level cache to get the data. Actually, let me just rename this to multi-level cache, because I think that will make more sense, right? I don't know. Right, so multi-level cache, we just ask the multi-level cache to give the data for this key, and we get the read response. In the read response, we have to return the read response, and the read response will be added to the average time that we have. So there is a method which add times to this array. This is a helper method that we have created. So it just adds the time to the array, and the array that we have to add it to is the read times, because it's the read operation, and then we just return the read response. Similarly, there is a write response, and in the write response, we get a key and value in the input. We just again ask the multi-level cache to store the key and value. Then we get a response from the multi-level cache back, and then again we store the last write time. I mean, store this time in the last write times, and we just return the write time. If you just see at times here, if we have already reached the limit, because we have to keep track of uh, last specific number, right? So we do not need to store all the previous times. We just need a specific up to a specific number. So if we have already reached that limit, so we just remove the first number and then we add the new time at the last, so that we just only have a last count numbers, not the whole list until the beginning, right? Then we have the stats operation. A stats operation is again, it's just taking the average time, average write time, and it is asking the cache to give the average usages of each level. So we'll see how these are implemented, get, set, and usages in the multi-level cache. So that's how the cache service is implemented. One thing you can notice here is I have used this generics, like instead of even in the problem statement we were given, we will only have string as the key and string as the value, but I have kept them as key and value, and we have used generics over here. I'll come to this why I have used this way when I discuss the design patterns and how this design is, or what all design choices I made. So just stay tuned and until that point, so that you get to know that. Cool. Now let's come to next. This multi-level cache. So the multi-level cache is actually, it's an interface. Actually, this cache service should also have this interface, because that's what we are saying, right? A level. It's a level cache that we are giving. So the multi-level cache will actually have multiple levels, right? And each level is one cache, or one level will have one cache provider, and some read times and write times. Like each level is nothing in itself. It needs a cache, right? So if I see default level cache, it needs a cache provider where it is actually going to store the data, and it needs the level cache data, like what all data is there for the level, right? And when we're saying the data that is stored in the cache, it is the key value that we have in the input. So for each level, we have the cache provider where we will be storing the key and value that we get in the input, and then we have some data which is only specific for this layer, right? And this layer is like read times and write times, right? And if you remember, I talked about like capacity. I'm not storing here. This is again because of the capacity is actually the property of cache provider. Like let's say you are using in-memory cache at level 1 and Redis at level 2. So both of them, the Redis and the in-memory at different levels, they will have that specific capacity that they are providing, right? So that's why, though it's a property of the level, but it's actually the property of the cache at a particular level, right? It's not the property of the level itself, right? So that's why we are directly using we were directly putting the capacity at the cache provider and not at the level cache data, right? So this is the default implementation of single level of cache. But let's see what is the I-level cache provider. So I-level cache is an interface which provides you set of methods which someone has to implement for a particular to become a particular level, right? So like it has to provide get, set, and again the get usages that we need from a particular level cache, right? And as you can assume, the cache service, it will always be pointing to the L1 cache, right? If you remember, L1, L2, L3. So first of all, we have the L1. So the cache service that you have, it will always be pointing to the L1 cache, because that's where we start. So, and each level will have a pointer to the next level. So that's why we have, the next pointer here. Like first of all, we have this cache level, and at this cache level, we have the cache provider and the cache data. And then we have the next level. So like if you remember, then we had L1 and then L2. So L1 is actually pointing to L2. Like we have L2 after L1. So that's why L1 is actually pointing to L2, and our cache service will have the object of L1, right? So cache service will directly call L1, and then L1 then we have L2, and similarly we have L3, and similarly, and so on, right? So that's how the classes are modeled. So this particular default level cache is actually specifying the cache or the overall single level, right? A single level cache. So L2 or L1 or L3, they are identified by default level cache, or actually I level cache, right? Then at each layer we have, let's say cache 1 C1, and cache 2 C2, and so on, right? So there can be different caches at each levels, right? Like let's say L1 can have in-memory cache because it will be faster. Then L2 you can have Redis cache because then it will be Redis, and then L3 you can have database, though it's not a cache per se, but I'm just giving an example where you can have a different type of cache, right? So I mean, that's the default level cache. It has three things: that it's its own data, then the key value, and actual cache to store the key and value, and then it is pointing to the next cache. You will understand it more when you actually see the implementation, how is it implemented, and then you will also be able to appreciate it when you actually see why is it implemented that way. Right now you might be getting confused, like why you have next and all, why you're not having a list of labels, a list of caches in the cache service itself, and it can do everything. But I'll discuss like why it's not the case and why I've implemented it this way. So so basically, let's say we have to set the key value, right? So first of all, we have to implement the set method. So in the set method, we get the key and value in the input, and then we have to return the write response. Write response will be the total time it takes to read from all the labels plus the write wherever it writes, right? So first of all, we define the current time as 0. Then we check what is the value at the current level. So when we are in this class, or when we in an object of the class, you agree with me, right, that we are at a particular level, and this is not the whole cache. So this signifies a single level, this signifies single level. So whenever we are in this set method, we are at a particular level, and this level has this cache, and it is pointing to the next level, right? So when we are at a particular level, we have to first, when we are writing, let's say we start from L1, we have to first check what is the value at this L1. So we first get what is the value at L1, and since we have read the value from this cache at L1, we just add the read time of this level in the current time, because we have read from this level, right? So read time has been added. Then we check if the value is same or not. If the value is same, then we do not have to write it, right? As we said, if the value is not same, then actually we have to write it. So we ask the cache provider to write the value into its storage, and since we have written it now, so we add the write time to it, right? So so whenever we are reading, we add the read time. Whenever we are writing, we add the write time. It's very straightforward, right? Now once we are done with this level, right, now you have checked the value. If it's there, we are good. If it's not there, we are not good. Then we have to move to the next level. So then after doing its own operation, it asks the next level to perform it, right? So it calls the set on the next level, right? And it passes the key and value to it. And since from this level, the total time that you have to return is the time taken at this level plus the time taken at all the next levels, right? So that's why we found the time which we took at this level by checking whether, I mean, we always read it, so plus read time, and if we add the right time. So we first find out what time we took at this level, and then whatever we took at the next levels, we just add it, and then we return the new response from it, right? That's the single level implementation for write. Just maybe pause for a minute, and try to read it in your mind so that you understand it better. Now let's come to the read operation. In the read operation, similarly, it's implemented the similar in the similar manner. So first of all, in the read operation, we have to check with the current provider that we have in the cache. So let's say we are at the L1. So we will see whether the cache provider that is there in that level has the key has that key or not, right? So first, that's exactly what we are doing. We check the cache provider to give the key back, actually the value back for that key. And since we have read for the key at this level, so we just add the read time, just like write we are doing, right? If the value is present, then we are done, right? As the problem statement sent, then we do not have to go to the next levels, and we just return the response from here itself. But if the value is not present in the current level, then we have to move to the next levels. So let's say we were at the L1, so we did not find the value at L1, so we go to L2. We have to go to L2, right? So that now let's see how we are doing that. So when we are at L1, we do not find the value in the current level, that is the L1 level, and that is signified by L1 or the current level value equals to null. Then we try to get the value from the next levels, right? Since we have performed the operation at the next levels, right? Then we add the total time that we got from the next response or the next levels, and the current value what we got from the next levels, right? So L1 will call to L2, and similarly L2 will call to L3, and L3 will call to L4. So whatever the next levels give the time back, we will add it to the current time, and we will see what value we got from the next levels. Now it can be possible that even the value is, or actually the key is not present in any of the levels, right? Let's say L1, L2, L3, and L4. Let's say none of the levels have this value. Let me just put it here so that it will be easier to, let's say none of the labels, let's say we start from L1, we do not find it, we go to L2, we do not find it, we go to L3, we do not find it, we go to L4, we do not find it. Let's say in none of the labels we find it. So that's why it might possible that a current level value which pops up, which actually which is written from each of the label stays null because it is not found in any of the labels. So that's why we have to put this check. But if we find it any of the labels, let's say we are at L3 and we find it at the L3, so we just do not go into this if loop when we are at L3, but at L2 we will go into this loop and we will at this location. So at L2 we will return the time which is taken by L3 plus the time taken by L2, and the value would be whatever was returned from L3, right? So we get the value from L3 here, and we will, since L2 was not having it earlier, right? And in the problem statement, if you remember, it was given that if any level does not have the value, then while returning the value, we have to write it back at all the other levels, right? Since we found the value at L3, so now we have to write the value back at L2 and L1. So on the return recursion, or on after performing the recursion, this is actually happening by a recursion, right? If you can visualize it. So after doing the recursion on the next levels, we are back at the previous level, and if we find the value from the next level, then we just write it at the current level, right? And since we write it, so we add the right time of the current level, and we add this to the current time, or the level, or the total time that we are returned from this level, and then we just return the total response. So this is actually happening via recursion. If this is not clear to you, I would suggest that re-listen to it, and you will be able to understand it better by listening it again and again. But the idea is we perform the work at a single layer, and then we passes on the work to second layer, and then we do our work again. So that's the whole idea of using this or of writing this code this way and using recursion along the way, right? In this way we are only caring about what is happening at a single layer. We do not care about other layers, right? So when we are a particular layer, we see like what we have to do at this layer. We are not concerned about other layers, like what is happening in L3 or L1, L4. So whatever we have to do only for this layer. So at this layer we have to read. If the value is not found, then we pass the control to the next layer from this layer, and then when we get a response back, we check if the value was found in the next layers or not. If it was found, then we just add it to the current layer. Otherwise we do not add it, and then we just return the response, right? Another thing we have done is, as you can see, the write times and read times we are adding only when we are doing it, right? So this actually minimizes the chances of error. Like you just add the read time, but you do not read it. So it's really easier, or it's really clear. The read times will be added only when we are reading it. Write times will be added only when we are writing it. Now let's see the usages function. In the get usages function, again we are just having the a single. I mean, at the current layer, we have to return all the usages from this layer and all the next layers, right? So first of all, we ask the next to give all the usages, right? So if the next is null, the next one is empty. If the next is not null, then we ask the next to give all the usages. And once we have the usages from the next, then we add ours at the beginning, and then we just return it. Again, this is happening in the recursion. All three methods, get, usages, actually the get and the set, all these are happening via recursion, right? So the concept is same. Each layer does its work and then passes on the control to the next layer, and then once the next layer completes its work, then it does some other work of its own. So it's the standard form of recursion that you do. So that's how the single level cache is implemented. and then each single level cache you have a cache provider. So we have a cache provider here. It's in class, and the cache provider, as you can see, a single class can have a eviction policy and it can have a storage. So this particular cache provider thing is very similar to the other cache video I have created, right? And this is a single cache thing again. So that video is actually specifically for single cache thing, and I have already created a video on that, like why eviction policy is there, why storage is there, and how it is helping you to create your flexible design. So I'm not going into details of it in this video because again, I mean, it's there in the another video already. So it's better to watch that video, and it will be redundant if I just put that content here also. So I have actually put a link of that video in the description. So just watch through that video to understand how the cache provider is implemented. But the idea is, since the cache provider is not the you know is not the main thing of this problem. The main thing of this problem is how do you implement the multi-level cache, and that's how it is implemented over here, right? So the multi-level cache is actually implemented by a I-level cache interface and default level cache interface on the class, and that's what we have discussed anyways, right? We have already discussed. So single cache provider is actually the provider. You can just consider it as a black box which is actually providing the caching functionality at each layer, right? Each layer will have to use some cache to store the data, right? To store the key and value, right? So this cache provider is actually providing that functionality, and it is a single cache. So each layer has one cache, and that single cache is a cache provider. And for that single cache, we have already a video, whose link is in the description. Cool. Now the policy and storages are actually used by this cache provider. So storage is actually to store the data, and policy is the eviction policy. It's a standard eviction policy in the cache. So these details are again in that video, so I will not be going to detail of these, right? And I think that's mostly important. And storageful exception is again the part of the actual cache provider. So they are again in that video, right? So just to tell you like where I have put that capacity. So capacity is actually, if you see, it is not the part of cache provider, right? Cache provider is actually using the storage behind the scenes. So like here, if you have in-memory storage, like I have created one storage as in-memory storage. So in-memory storage will have some capacity. Let's say you have Redis as another storage. So you will have your Redis will have another capacity, right? So each storage will actually have the capacity, and that's where we are injecting the capacity. So it's not the part of layer. It's actually the part of storage which is used by the cache at a particular layer, right? So that's where we have put the capacity. Cool. So that's the design what I have created.